Hi everyone, a warm good evening to all of you who has joined us today. My name is Jiva. I'm part of the admissions and outreach team at Plaksha. In this webinar today evening, we are trying to explore the current higher education landscape in our country. Some of the stats where, and also understanding why a humanistic approach to technology education is the need of the hour. We shall also look at how Plaksha Tech Leaders Fellowship is uniquely positioned, which makes it the program for the future. It's my pleasure to introduce to today's host, Mr. Vineet Gupta. Vineet is a founder and trustee at Plaksha University as well as Ashoka University. Vineet, who graduated from IIT Delhi in 1991, is a first-generation entrepreneur who has built several companies. However, his passion lies at education. Vineet's dream is to take high-quality education to every deserving student in our country. As the founder and trustee at Plaksha University, his mission is to create a new model of technology education from India for the world. Vineet also served as the founding pro-vice chancellor of Ashoka University, where he played a pivotal role in setting up Ashoka as the founder and trustee there. I'm also happy to share that we have 3 fellows from our current cohort of Tech Leaders Fellowship joining us today. Mr. Saif Khan, who graduated from IIT Kharagpur and also worked with organizations like Samagra Consulting and IPAC. Kartika, who graduated from VJTI Mumbai and went on to work with UBS as a software engineer, and also is an ambassador of Women in Data Science Mumbai chapter. We also have Bharat, who graduated from NIT Kurukshetra and went on to work as a software engineer at HSBC before joining Plaksha. Without further ado, Vineet, over to you. And once again, thanks all of you for joining for this evening.
Well, thank you, Jiva. And on behalf of Plaksha, very warm welcome to everyone. And thank you for attending this webinar. Jiva, we'll need your help to change the slides as we sort of move on. Maybe we can go to the first one. I really wanted to pick on the title of the presentation as well as the program, which is Tech Leader. Why choose to be a tech leader? And as we walk you through the presentation, we want to really pick on both words, tech and leader. And the fellowship incidentally is also called the Tech Leaders Fellowship. While I'll sort of really set the broad context, I think it's really the fellows that you should be speaking to. They have been on this journey for the last almost 8-9 months now. And they are probably the right ones to answer your deepest questions around the program, what they gained, how their individual journeys transformed. Keep moving, Jiva, next one. So I think just sort of going back to where what Jiva was saying when he introduced me, I've been an entrepreneur having built companies in packaging, pharmaceutical, education, but clearly my passion lies in higher education. And some of it has to do with our current state of higher education in our country. India today has almost 900 universities and 40,000 colleges. So we have the largest higher education ecosystem in the world today. We have more number of universities and colleges in India than any other country, more than China, more than US. We have about 3.5 crore students in higher education, which is second only to China. China has more students than us, but we are larger. We are larger than the US. We are larger than most Western countries. Still even with this sort of an infrastructure, we have still 1 in 4 students are able to go to college. So our gross enrollment ratio, out of everybody who should be going to college, only 1 out of 4 is able to go to college. US is 88%, Germany 68%, China is 42%. China and India were very comparable at the turn of the century. So clearly, both in terms of access and in terms of quality, India has a severe challenge. And one is really tempted to ask this question that, where is our higher education system sort of moving? How is it going to look 10, 20, 30 years from now? And these were some questions that I wanted to deal with, that I wanted to answer, that brought me to this journey. And I got very involved in building Ashoka early on, right from 2007, and I continue to be involved. And now I'm involved in building Plaksha. Keep going, Jiva. And just on this issue of access, not only do we have only 1 in 4 students going to college, in the teen category, in the age group of 10 to 19, we have the largest population. We have 7 crore students enrolled in higher education by 2030. All of these students who are going to higher secondary school right now, they will all come up to go to college. So this 3.5 crore students in college will start looking like 7 crore by 2030. So, which means we have to double our higher education capacity. So whatever students we have now, by 2030, 10 years from now, this will double, which means setting up another 900 universities, 40,000 colleges. And not only the issue of access, even in terms of quality, we are not doing that well. Only 2 Indian universities in the top 200, 35% faculty shortage in Indian universities. Our citation impact is half the world average, right? In terms of number of patents, India lags far behind. China has overtaken the US, you would have read in a recent report. So clearly, in terms of the broad education, higher education landscape, there is far more to be done. We spend $15 billion in foreign exchange to send students abroad for higher education. So many more high quality institutions required. Many more high quality institutions required in the private sector space. Some of our top institutions continue to be government universities, and the private sector can do much better. Keep going. And especially then when we come to engineering and technology, of course, the IITs, the NITs, a lot of other private colleges have done a great job in terms of engineering education. And some of that education, I do believe, really fueled the IT boom. The IT boom of the 90s, 2000, and even till now. I think it was really our engineering education which was fueled by the model that the IITs created, and then all of the top other colleges, NITs, VJTI, from where Kartika is, all private top colleges, they sort of fueled this whole IT revolution, which was born on really the foundation of a top engineering education. I think the question is, and some of you would have read this report, AICT, a lot of our engineers are unemployed. AICT is saying no more engineering colleges in the country. So that's sort of one dimension. On the other hand, you hear that technology is changing the world. Technology could be perhaps the biggest weapon India has in its economic development. So you hear that we need more of technology. And then you were seeing engineering colleges shutting down. And then you start to ask the question, that is the problem with engineering education, or is the problem with the way it's taught, right? Clearly, I think the world needs more technology than less. But the world does need a different sort of engineering education. So some of these people that you see on the screen, whether Neeraj from BCG, head of BCG Asia, Hitesh, who's founder of InfoEdge, Alok Mittal, who founded Indify, Divyata, who heads the merchant bank for Goldman Sachs in London, myself, CP, who's heading Tech Mahindra, Ashish, Manas, who heads Nagaro. Some of us are really on this mission to reimagine technology education, to reimagine engineering and technology education, and reimagine it in what ways? I mean, we believe engineering education needs to become more interdisciplinary. The boundaries of engineering disciplines need to collapse, right? So computer science has sort of become the foundation for most disciplines. The boundaries of electrical, mechanical, CS, and other disciplines need to collapse. Engineering, by definition, is using science to solve problems of the planet, right? That's the classical definition of engineering. And if that is the definition, then it has to evolve to really help solve problems which the planet faces today. What are the, whether the problems of climate change, urban mobility, manufacturing, these are some of our biggest challenges and our biggest problems. And engineering education has to change to solve some of these biggest challenges. Keep going, Jiva. So with that mission in mind, we did travel across the world and assembled an advisory board that has some top academics from all over. Abhijit Banerjee, who recently won the Nobel in economics, and you would wonder what a Nobel Prize winner in economics is doing in an engineering institution. but that's precisely the point. Engineering has to be able to solve some of the biggest challenges, that we face from a development economics perspective. So Abhijit is right there. Anant, who's heads edX, Arvind Raman from Purdue, Ashish Nanda, former director IIM Ahmedabad, Professor B.N. Jain from IIT Delhi, then James Holloway from University of Michigan, Pankaj Jalote, Triple IIT Delhi, Sharad Malik from Princeton University's Chair of Electrical and CS, Shankar Shastri, who just stepped down as the Dean of Engineering at UC Berkeley, Francis Feigler, who's a professor at NCSU and UNC Chapel Hill, Julia Ross, Dean of Engineering at Virginia Tech, Shriram Rajamani, who's Managing Director, Microsoft Research Labs, and Yanis Yotos, who's Dean of Engineering at University of Southern California. So some of these people are helping us build Plaksha in some of the ways we described, bring in a stronger element of liberal arts design leadership into engineering education. Engineering education has to spur innovation and entrepreneurship. So these are some broader goals for Plaksha. Make it more interdisciplinary, bring in stronger component of liberal arts and design, spur innovation and entrepreneurship, and really graduate a set of engineers who can lead, who can change, who can create impact in the world. The Plaksha Tech Leaders Fellowship, in some sense, is our flagship program. It's a one-year master's level program, co-delivered by the University of California, Berkeley. And again, sort of going back, tech and leaders, both these terms are important in this fellowship. So while the program is deep from a technology perspective, and we'll come to the curriculum in a minute, but also a key element of the fellowship is driving your leadership potential. So we are looking to graduate a set of people who design ethical, scalable, tech-centric solutions. They are innovative and entrepreneurial, and they inspire and drive impact. So not only is the deep sense of technology very prevalent in the fellowship, but also taking students on their personal leadership journey. I've always believed that leadership really is a journey of transformation. Leadership is a journey of personal transformation, right? Everybody today is a leader. Everybody has leadership potential. How do you unleash that potential? That unleashing of that potential is a series of conversations that you have with your own self. How do you relate better with people? How do you start becoming more authentic? How can you develop a better sense to collaborate? How do you communicate better? Different human beings are at a different stage in their own leadership journey. And it is for each one of us to really understand where we are, open up our blind spots, and unleash our potential as a leader. And when we look at this fellowship, we are looking to graduate people when they go out, when they finish this 1 year. Not only are they better equipped to handle the technical aspects of a problem, but they are also better equipped to lead, whether they form a team within an organization, whether they create impact, whether they identify what are some of the biggest challenges the planet faces and rally to do that. So our graduates will progress on both dimensions, on the technology dimension and also on the leadership dimension. And hence, I believe this fellowship is a one-of-a-kind program, very special. I don't think a program of this nature exists elsewhere, whether in India or abroad. And when Berkeley decided to partner with us, they were also very clear that they would like to take this program back to Berkeley while they are helping us develop this program here, but they want to take it back. It's a 1 year program, very intensive, and the fellows will sort of vouch for that. Not 1 year precisely, but a little bit more than 11 months. There are about 30 odd visiting faculty who come and teach on the program. These faculty come from all over the world. We've divided the year into 8 terms of roughly 6 weeks each. One term is bigger. The capstone term is longer. It's about 8 weeks. And terms 7 and 8 tend to be shorter, but largely most terms are 6 weeks. The class size is 60. The first class had 59 students. And the venue for the program is in Gurgaon. And we partner with Berkeley and also closely with Purdue, but we have faculty coming from all over. Keep moving, Jiva. These are some of the faculty who come and teach on the program. Professor Ravi Kothari leads the data science piece. He's former chief scientist, IBM India. Dr. Ikhlaq Sidhu is the co-chair of the program along with me. While he doesn't teach himself, but he's involved in the curriculum design. He also keeps a tight tab on what's going on. He comes off and on to lecture. Dr. Rajiv Barua is Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering, University of Maryland. He taught the cybersecurity course. Professor Hangal He has a PhD from Stanford, also runs a lab there. He's also an entrepreneur. He teaches a course on human-computer interaction. Dr. David Chesney from University of Michigan on systems thinking. Dr. Kenvin Smith, who teaches a course on leadership. Dr. Jitesh Panchal from Purdue, who teaches design thinking. Dr. Shumali Chatterjee, who's yet to come. She comes in term 8 from Purdue again. Dr. Andrew Brightman, who teaches engineering ethics, again from Purdue. Dr. Sandeep Juneja, who's the Dean for Computer Science at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. He teaches a course on optimization. Dr. Subhashish, he teaches a course on development economics. Again, he's one of India's top economists. Dr. James Shananan teaches deep learning, again from Berkeley. Ken Singer on leadership. David Law, who teaches the course on Entrepreneurship Challenge Lab. King Shuk, who taught a course on programming early on. So these are some about 15 names up there. There are many more. And the curriculum has keep moving. As you can see, the faculty pretty much comes from all over the world, an outstanding group of people. And the curriculum is divided into 4 key buckets, if I may say. Half the curriculum is, maybe not half, but probably a little less than half, is what we call the technology core, which is around data science, machine learning, AI. So there are courses which start pretty much from term 2 and build on. Then the other half of the curriculum is divided into 3 buckets. So maybe the 40% is bucket 1 and the other 60% is divided into these 3 buckets. Technical and social context. So courses around design thinking, systems thinking, to really help you design solutions from a user perspective, design solutions end to end, but also where do you apply data science, whether to fintech or to digital agriculture or to healthcare. So there are courses around that. Real world experiences. So you do a lot of projects, you build stuff. There is the entrepreneurial challenge lab where you come up with an idea and you not only develop the technical solution, but also the go-to-market strategy. So developing the broad entrepreneurial ability. Then you do Capstone, which is a 8-week project where you actually work with an organization. And the fellows, all 3 of them have just finishing up with their capstones currently. And then a strong component of self and leadership. Pretty much starts right from the orientation and then goes on communication. How do you communicate? Leadership. How do you look at your own blind spots? Learning to deal with, how do you communicate authentically? How do you form closer relationships? And then this curriculum pretty much goes on through the year. So very interesting curriculum put together with a lot of effort, thought, and pain. And the fellows, of course, can talk more about it. Keep going, Jiva. So along with the curriculum, there are some other key learning elements of the TLF. I believe guest lectures is one such element. During the course of the year, I think the fellows have attended or listened to maybe 40 or 50 different guest lectures. These are amazing entrepreneurs, again, from all over the world. Dr. Ashish Gupta, who you see here, he's a PhD from Stanford. He's a venture capitalist. He founded this company called Junglee.com, which he sort of sold off in early 2000. Alok Goyal from Stellaris, again, a technology venture capitalist. Anuranjita, Amba, and then, this Pankaj, who founded Zomato. So outstanding entrepreneurs, business leaders, academics. This is a very, very short list of 9 people we've put here, but it's been an amazing group of guest lectures. I believe each guest lecture gives you huge learning, right? Huge amount of learning coming with each guest lecture. And a very special part of the program is your one-on-one mentoring. So every fellow is assigned a mentor, right? So Hitesh, for example, would mentor 2 people. Manas, who you can see in this picture. Manas is the CEO of Nagarro. He's a technology entrepreneur, outstanding human being. He's mentoring 2 people. I mentor 2 people. A lot of our other founders, Pankaj Chadda is mentoring people. Neeta Goyal, who works at Google in the Silicon Valley, she's mentoring people. Vineet Gupta, my namesake, who's works with Google Brain, again in the Valley. He's one of the first 20-30 people who started Google, again based in the Valley. He was JE number 1, IIT Kanpur. He mentors some people. And again, it's a very special program. And what does this mean? This means that we form a special relationship with our mentors, which carries on through the year. So I would have done like 3-4 sessions with each of my mentees. They can reach out to me for any guidance, any problem, any advice they need. And some of these relationships are lifelong. They last through the year. So very, very valuable part of the fellowship. Keep going. Our founding cohort of 59 fellows came from a cross section of colleges, very diverse colleges. You can see BITS, you can see some IITs, you can see NSIT, Shiv Nadar, Ashoka, GD Goenka. I mean, the VGTI, Kartika is from there, Manipal, UC San Diego, UPenn, University of Delhi. And a lot of our fellows, we didn't design it that way, also had work experience. They had working for a number of organizations. But it doesn't matter whether you were right out of college or you've been working. We don't prefer one over the other. Keep going. So, Jiva, I'm doing well at 6:20 exactly. So 20 minutes is what you gave me. So I think that's sort of the broad overview of the fellowship, if I may say, right? Again, emphasizing on technology and leadership, really graduating. This is a very, very special program, highly selective. We end up selecting 1 in 12 applicants. Pretty liberal on scholarships. Some of you had this question on scholarships. We are fairly liberal on scholarship, but scholarships are more need-based, not merit-based. A very special program, crafted with a lot of care. Very special group of faculty. And of course, the last part, which I want to emphasize, and the fellows can talk more about it, is really there is tremendous peer learning, right? The 60 people stay together in 2 guest houses across in Gurgaon. It's a 10-minute walk from the center where the program runs. They live together, they study together, they have fun together. So that is again a key part of the program. So maybe at this point I can bring the fellows in. So I'll probably ask them 2-3 questions and then we'll open up the floor. So if I may start, let's say, let me start with Saif probably. That's the first picture I could see. So Saif, how do you relate to the tech leader part of the program, and who, according to you, is a tech leader in your definition?
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone. I hope you can hear my voice. And thanks Vineet and thanks everyone for having me here. So probably the idea that I had of being a tech leader was very limited before coming to Plaksha. It was more about being the CTO of a company or to be a co-founder of a startup. But I think throughout my last 8 or 9 months of journey in Plaksha, I think I have a more evolved sense of the definition of a tech leader. And it might seem cheesy, but I think it's more about the mindset that you have and the way that you conduct yourself, irrespective of the role and irrespective of the position that you have. So, for example, we have something called Challenge Lab in Plaksha. It's almost a 3-month program where you have to create a team and then work on a startup idea from scratch. And that in itself has a lot of learning in terms of leadership. How do you create a team? How do you deal with different people? How do you bring them together? How do you solve conflicts? There are a lot of issues that you have to deal with in real life. So that kind of experience, that kind of learning, that really brings out the leadership element in Plaksha. That was the first part of the question. Vineet, what was the second part?
Well, I think it was sort of rolled over, and maybe I'll come back to you.
Sure.
So let me move to Kartika. Kartika, you want to speak up your definition of a tech leader and how did that perspective evolve?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. For me, tech leader before Plaksha was just like a fancy term, like Saif told, some founder or a CTO, something like that, who is like really good or smart intellectually. But through this Plaksha program, what I actually discovered is it's not about that. It's more about willingness to learn. Always, it's basically there's no end to learning. You need to always stay curious and always learn. And the best part of learning is you can learn from people around you. So like the fellow mates, there's like so much diverse opinion they'll bring. So as much as it's important that you should be confident enough in putting your opinions across, it's also needed that you need to be a good listener to absorb what they have to bring in. And that way you learn a lot. Also from the guest sessions, I definitely learned a lot. And one key ingredient to a good leadership for me, which I have discovered, is to stay humble. So humble, that quality is something you need to have. Ego, arrogance, and all of these things should be a no in your list. And all the good leaders that have come across, even through the guest sessions, and right now at my capstone organization also, humbleness is the great quality that I would say you need to have and you need to learn to have. So yeah, that's
Thanks,
my
Kartika. That's well.
definition.
In two terms I was picking up, she mentioned humility as one trait of a leader, and the other one, is being a good listener. We all, when 15 years ago, or even sometimes, one thinks a good leader is somebody who talks well, speaks well, and really can make an impression. But a good leader is also a great listener, and I'm really, Kartika, that was outstanding. Bharat, maybe we can get you in. How did your
Yeah,
definition of a tech leader evolve, and who do you think is a tech leader?
yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. And I think coming from a technical background, so apart from technical aptitude part, I think I believe a technical a tech leader is somebody who has I think good communication skills. First, I think this was the main thing which we were never trained on as an engineer, and which every college misses. And I think this is a key skill when you want to become a leader at anything, even it may be at a project level or at an organization level. So you have different stakeholders that you manage. So I think this is one of the key skill being a leader. And second thing I think which I learned from different projects which we did is just be vulnerable to everybody, just be open. And I think that's, don't be scared to make mistakes because you will learn a lot. So I used to be very like very not very vulnerable. So I think this thing I learned being in the fellowship. And lastly, it's just like focus on the bigger picture, what you want to achieve in, let's say, 1 year or 5 years or 10 years, and don't think about small things in life. And what made me change my perspective, like being a leader, I think it's first what Saif mentioned was the challenge lab experience, working with team and working on a business idea, interacting with customers, interacting with different stakeholders. And then it's definitely guest lectures, I would say, like people from industry, people from academia, and they come share their experiences, how they build their companies, and seeing them being vulnerable to somebody who is 30 years younger than them. I think that's a huge thing for me.
Okay, thank you. Maybe then let me also ask you that if I were to say, what are in your own personal leadership journey from the time you started and where you have come in the last 8 months, if you had to reflect on one or two things which you gained immensely, and we'll come to the technical part later. I'm sort of dwelling on the leadership part first. What would be sort of the two things for each of you? Like you felt these were like the 2 or 3 big, key takeaways you got in your own leadership journey. And you've already somewhat reflected, but I'm sort of making it a little bit more sharper. Saif, maybe again, starting from you.
Yeah,
And this
sure.
is more personal. This question is a little bit.
Yeah. I got. So probably the biggest thing, probably the biggest aspect of a leadership, and probably one of the key learnings that I had in Plaksha, I think that journey started before Plaksha also, was uh, gaining empathy.
Okay.
Because I think that to be a good leader, to be a good communicator, to be a good conflict resolver, you need to be empathetic towards everyone around yourself, and to be in a immersive environment like Plaksha, where you are living with 60 fellows, working with them, studying with them. Every day is something different, and there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of different opinions coming. And uh, to filter through that noise and to actually understand that person's perspective, and to know where that person is coming from. That kind of quality, I think that is something that I learned. And it's a continuous journey, obviously. Another probably would be communication skills, maybe. I think I have gained more confidence when it comes to communication, when it comes to speaking up in classes, presenting. That was something that I used to shy away from before Plaksha. But since because the kind of college education that we have, even in IITs and in school, they don't really give focus on presentation skills or communication skills. But the way Plaksha is designed, they give you a lot of opportunities to speak up without any judgment. So these two things, empathy and communication skills.
Okay, Kartika, if you can go next and be sharper. I know there are lots of questions coming, so maybe I'm going to move to questions quickly, but two big takeaways for you.
One is, I'll say quickly, one is ethics, because throughout the whole fellowship, there'll be different instances where, you'll get to know that ethics does play a very important role. And also another thing is, through one of the leadership courses, I discovered that I used to create barriers around me. Not really physical barriers. It's more like I won't talk to this kind of person or this kind of, but you need to break all the barriers. And it's really important to be very open and be very approachable. And also you should not shy you should be very humble and curious. And that's the key to anything. That's one thing I just learned.
Ethics, breaking barriers. Yeah, breaking barriers is a big one too. People create walls around them. Bharat?
Yeah, I think first thing is I think I will be repeating myself, but I think just being vulnerable and exposing yourself is very important. If you are if you're early in the career and you want to learn and grow. And the second thing is just thinking critically is very important. Or whether it's when you are solving a problem or in general you are talking to somebody, I think this is one skill a leader should develop, and which I developed in last 1 year.
Thank you. So, okay, let's move on. And please keep typing your questions on the Q&A. Don't type on the chat. To all the panelists, to all the participants, sorry. All the participants, just type your question. I'll pick up your questions from the Q&A, right? So let's move on the technical part. And you can also, while you speak, you can also talk about your favorite courses. So on the data science part, what did you gain in the whole data science, ML, AI sequence, some of the application courses? And I don't know who wants to go first. Kartika, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah. So one thing which I was looking forward from this fellowship was to improve my tech quotient, basically the AI ML part. So I had a little background before joining, and I wanted to upskill that part. So I was mainly focusing on that part throughout the fellowship. So basically, I'll tell you what, the whole fellowship, there are like variety of courses, and it's filling in everything. Definitely, you cannot do it. So you need to focus or prioritize rather on what you really need to want to achieve. So for me, it was the tech part. So Professor Ravi Kothari, he was my favorite faculty because not just his course, the way he taught, it was very poetic, the way he teaches the whole machine learning part. And so machine learning, that course which he taught is my favorite course also. And also he's very approachable in terms of you're planning your whole study plan or your guidance, anything, he's very approachable. So that is there. And I also like James Shanahan, who took a significant part of deep learning. But he's a really strict professor. So, I mean, he can like literally call you up in the class and just ask you random questions. I mean, the subject related questions. But so that's like I mean, you should be just confident. He's really good at the end. He does everything at the interest of, you learning, maximizing your learning only. But he's a really strict professor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bharat, what about you? What was your favorite part of the course?
I think, if you're specifically talking about data science and AI, I think
Yeah, and you can focus on other aspects too.
Yeah. So then I would speak two things on data science and AI. I think for me it was Grand Challenge series because I was always fascinated by let's say ad tech and then agriculture and healthcare, because I was never exposed to healthcare. So it was really interesting for me to see.
And maybe for the audience, explain them also what the Grand Challenge series is.
Okay. So basically, Grand Challenge Series, there is a part that you go deep into technical skills, but how you use those skills into solving real challenges like genomics, gene editing, or in agriculture. So I did one project on agriculture as well with a professor from Purdue University. So there is a future, and a lot of things are happening in this space and also in the finance space, and it's the future, I think. And it gives you the exposure that you need to widen your horizon of knowledge, and I think that's very important as well. And the second part, the overall best course, I think for me was design thinking, which is taught by Mr. Jitesh Panchal. And being coming from a tech background, I always focused on technical things, but never realized the design and human computer interaction part. And I think it became a favorite course of mine. And then I continued to pursue this course. Even I did my capstone with IBM. Even at IBM, I got trained on enterprise design thinking and how you apply design thinking on AI teams. I think this is what I want to.
Fantastic. And Saif, you want to add
Yeah, sure.
to the whole coursework part?
So for the technical or the machine learning part, I guess my favorite course was cybersecurity by Professor Rajiv Barua. The reason was because the whole course was very designed in a practical way. So there was lecture, but after the lectures ended, we worked on creating a anti-malware kind of a software based on machine learning. So I created my own version of antivirus software. It was a very basic software, but you feel very proud of yourself that within 2 weeks, using some kind of machine learning, you created a virus detection tool. So that was my favorite. But I guess my most favorite subjects was not machine learning or not tech based, but it was economics and sociology. Economics by Professor Gangopadhyay and sociology by Professor Dipankar Gupta. Mostly because the kind of discussion that we had in classes, the kind of topics that we touched upon, those were very amazing, very thought provoking.
So you're listening to a cross section of opinion here. So clearly, from data science, machine learning, AI to their applications, to design thinking, to cybersecurity, to sociology, economics. So it's a wide spectrum. Okay, can you give examples of a guest session which made an impact? And how does it fit with the aim of being a tech leader? Would you want to, some of you, Bharat, you want to do that?
Yeah, I think there are two guest lectures which stood out for me. First was by Mr. Hitesh Oberoi. So he talked about how he overcome, and I think it's very relevant in this COVID-19 situation, how he overcome that .com meltdown and how he overcome 2008 and how he built all the portfolio of companies.
Hitesh is the CEO of Naukri, for just some of people to know.
Yeah. So how he built like portfolio companies, Naukri, Jeevan Sathi, and 99 Acres, and how he make he with his team make minor changes, small innovations, and that lead to becoming one of the biggest entrepreneur of India. And second person which I admired a lot was Mr. Vikrant Raina, and the kind of personality and the kind of vibe and confidence he came with, I think I will never forget that guest lecture. And the person who brought BCG and Goldman Sachs to India, that was really inspiring.
Vikrant is also an engineer, an MBA. He lives in Boston and he is a venture capitalist. Yeah. Saif, what would be your sort of one or two favorite guest lectures?
First would be obviously Vikrant Raina, that Bharatdeep told about, because that lecture was that whole lecture or that talk was very different from the rest. The kind of topics that he talked about, and he was very fearless about speaking about things, and that was very refreshing. The second would be from Dr. Ashish Gupta, who runs Helion Ventures. So his talk was more about startup, especially pitching to venture capitalists. So that was also a great learning experience.
Right. Okay, Kartika.
For me, Dr. Pooja Rao. So she is the founder of Cure.ai, and I really like the way she talked because being from a medical background, she has great skills even in the AI/ML space. And right now, actually, I'm also doing my capstone with Fractal, so I have met her there also, and I've seen how she has. Because their product, which was doing, which was in the space of radiology and other detection, but now because of this COVID scenario, how they repurpose the whole product to detect COVID is a really great thing. So that is something. I mean, beyond guest session, I have a different connection with her. So yeah, that is there.
Great. We'll now, maybe I'm not going to ask the same question to everyone. We'll just pick up a lot of questions. Okay, one question: how's the COVID-19 impact the upcoming batch in terms of top-notch faculty? So we've moved the current batch to start on. Last year we started on August 1. This year we are starting on September 1. We are hoping that by September 1, things will normalize and we will be back to. So all our faculty are committed to come. Of course, there is this 1% chance that COVID doesn't even stabilize by September, in which case, all our India-based faculty are anyway here. The broad-based faculty, it could happen that they don't come in term 1, they come later. But it was precisely for this reason. This is a question by Aman Barwal. There's another question from Aditya. It is mentioned that it is a master's level course. And what does that mean? So Plaksha University is in the process of being formed. And that's the reason, there was another question. That's the reason we don't give a degree or a diploma. That's the reason we give a certificate. The certificate is co-signed by Berkeley. The reason it's a master's level course is that with this, when you do this course and apply abroad for your higher education, most universities tend to look at the courses you've done and the credit you have, right? So even though you get a certificate, but if you were to apply abroad, you will get the recognition of this being equivalent to a master's degree, if that was your question. And the reason we can't give a diploma or a degree is because we are not a university yet. And our campus will open next year, but the course has started this year. But I do want to mention the Indian School of Business. The one-year program doesn't give you a degree or diploma. That also gives you a certificate. So we do believe that the quality of the program defines it. The quality of the program, the coursework defines it, and that sort of defines what the graduates end up doing. While the diploma and degree is important, but in my mind or in the minds of our founders, it's probably not front and center. Okay, what are you looking for when we recruit? This is a question from Vishesh Shastri. Well, we give you all a test. You all get a coding test and a math test. So we are looking at a certain background in math and programming, right? We want all of you who are coming in to have a certain background in math and programming. That's the prerequisite. Your degree could be in engineering, it could be in math, it could be physics. Math is important. We are not going to take you if you've not done high-level math. Plus some background in programming is very, very important, right? These two are the core prerequisites. Other than that, we are really looking at your motivation, your hunger, some demonstrated excellence. While you may not have excelled in academics, but have you excelled in some great project work, some outstanding stuff you've done? So some X factor, right? Your curiosity, your hunger to learn, your attitude. So these are the things we're looking at. We give you a written test and then we interview, right? Okay, is this course suggested for a non-entrepreneurial person? Yes, it's open for, and when we say entrepreneur, we are not saying that you really go and start a company. Entrepreneurship is a mindset, really a mindset, and I'll have some of the students answer this. Okay, let me pick another question which the students can take. Total fees of the program, Jiva, just remind me, where are we on the total fee?
The tuition fee for the program is 9.5 lakhs.
Okay. Tuition fee for the program is 9.5 plus there is a
1.7 lakh of residence fee.
The living cost on the tuition fee, depending on your need requirement, we give you some scholarships. The living cost you have to bear on your own, that is 1.7. There's a question that come up. Why is it important to have this residential? Maybe I'll have the fellows answer this. So some people are asking, why can't this be a day boarding? Why should it be a residential? What is your view? Kartika?
It is really necessary to stay along with the fellows because, like I told, actually this whole program is very intense. So there'll be like a lot of assignments and a lot of things, the teamwork, and in a day you'll be working with different teams, like different people also. So the whole experience lies in being at the residence and learning from your fellows and that is really, I mean, I enjoyed the most and I really miss that now at home and not at the residence. I really miss that. So that is an experience which you really need to have. I mean, I would like Saif to add to it.
Okay, and Saif, when you answer, you can also answer this one. It's a very unique fellowship. I'm a geotechnical civil engineer currently working in Golden Associates in US, Golder, masters from UT Austin. But I am keen on this fellowship, which combines tech, entrepreneurship, liberal. I'm interested to move back. So having a different degree in a different industry, how can it benefit me? Saif, what's your advice to Ayushi, sorry.
Personally, I don't think your background or your degree matters a lot, because within our batch we have engineers, but we also have people from economics, we have people from liberal arts, people from mathematics background. Uh, for example, I don't have a background in machine learning. I am a chemistry graduate, so I have coded, but I haven't coded a lot. So I don't think the your background matters. What matters is where do you want to see yourself in 1 year? Do you want to be a tech leader? Do you want to go into machine learning? Do you want to have a good holistic kind of education? If that is your goal, I think this program is good. Uh, I don't think your background or your degree matters a lot as long as you can handle the academic rigor.
Okay, Bharat, can you also share your internship? We call it capstone experience, and how learning from Plaksha helped in that.
Yeah. So I did my internship with IBM, and it was a data science consultant post. So I was also got mentorship and training on product management. So apart from solving the data science problem, where we used computer vision to optimize their current solution for a US client, I want to touch upon the enterprise design thinking part, and which and I didn't know that IBM had such a amazing training and people in design field as well. So I think and how you there is one part. So design thinking is basically how you solve problems, how you approach problems, but it changes the game when you solve a AI problem or a typical software development program. So because there is a lot of data involved, there is a lot of hit and trial involved. So I think this capstone experience gave me exposure to that as well, how design principles are applied on AI projects.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to add to the capstone experience, because that's a significant part? Say for Kartika, anyone?
I can add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think all three had different experience.
Okay.
So my internship was in product management. Even before coming to Plaksha, I wanted to be a
And which
PM.
company were you with?
Eightfold. So Eightfold is a Silicon Valley based startup, Series C funded, and so my role was as a product manager intern. And personally, I felt that whatever goals I had before joining this capstone, all of those goals were met. So to understand what is the day-to-day responsibility of a PM and what kind of work that we do, that was a good exposure to me in these 2 months. Uh, I think I had got amazing team in my internship.
Okay, Kartika, if you can answer, how much technical knowledge do you think is necessary for someone to get on board, to be comfortable in Plaksha TLF? This is from Kaushik Raj.
Technical experience, it's not really necessary. Of course, you need to have a knack of a bit of coding, and the mathematics is really important to grasp all the algorithms. But I've seen like a lot of people, when we join also, things are not really there in our mind. We need to brush up. So again, talking about the first question, residence is a place where you sit together and combine studies and all. So all of y'all can brush up. There is ample time to brush up your concepts and do it. But yeah, I mean, I would just say that knack should be there of coding and mathematics. Rest you can do it on your on the whole during the course. Yeah. And about the capstone experience, I was doing with Fractal, their product called Eugenie.ai. And I really gained a lot from this experience because I was a data science intern and I was mainly focused on the tech part and the algorithms part itself. And not just my capstone project, I got another opportunity of working on a COVID related project, which is really impactful. And and yeah, I mean, I'm not talking more about that project because of the confidential reasons, but yeah, that really, my learning curve was like really steep. So yeah.
Question from Shivam Bindal. Having spent 3.5 years in healthcare consulting, I have basic understanding of SQL and Python, and I wish to switch to product management from consulting. Since Plaksha is assessing coding, how detailed are those coding tests? Kartika, maybe you can just answer this also.
As far as I remember, the coding test is not really difficult. I mean, with a basic understanding, like I think there are 2-3 simple questions only, like sorting or something like that. I guess I don't remember exactly, but it's just that basic should be there. Like basic is the requirement.
I
Nothing
would
really
encourage you
high-level.
to, Shivam, we also in the first term, we do courses in math and we also do courses in math and programming, right? And we'll give you some online courses. So as long as you have a good background in math, as somebody said, and coding, you have a basic background, you can build on it, right? Okay, there's a question around how confident do you feel about placements or opportunities post the program? Do you have some assurance? So I can probably answer that, this is a difficult time. I want to be very candid upfront, but yes, we are hoping that some of our fellows are going to get placed in the organizations they interned in. And there are almost 70 plus founders who've come together to found this. So we feel very confident that we should be, even in this difficult time, we should be able to place all our fellows. But any one of you wants to also take this on?
So with my organization, before the lockdown started, my conversations were almost like, yeah, who work comes and interns over here is going to be a full time. But Fractal is definitely on a hiring freeze, is what I know. I don't know what the situation is going to be like, but I'm just hoping for the best. I don't know. I'm just patient enough right now. I'm doing my best, whatever I can at my internship. That's all.
Okay, who wants to go? Okay, let me take another one, which is this is from an anonymous attendee, and I wish you had shared your name, but what have been some shortcomings or disappointments in the program that you didn't foresee before joining? Asking this since it's the first year of the program and there definitely would be some shortcomings. I got into the program last year, but couldn't accept because of the things I'm skeptical about. So you should have actually mentioned what you are skeptical about, but we are happy to take every question. Saif, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I also shared the same doubts and when I was joining, because I already had 4 years of experience and I was doing well in my career. So obviously these doubts came up, mostly around what is the ratio of experienced people versus freshers, what is the peer learning, what will about living in residence and infrastructure. And I would say first day is always difficult because there will be a lot of hurdles and hiccups, and because the batch and the program team both are figuring things out. And so couple of hiccups that we had was uh, in residence, related to a food arrangement. That was a big you don't actually matlab, you don't think a food, something like food would be such a big issue, but that was a major issue for us because we were not happy with the kind of food that was given. So that was a big problem that we had, non-academic wise. Academic wise, I would say, I think so I will be very candid and honest. Uh, the doubt, the issue I had with the whole peer learning, because I had 4 years of experience, and but still it has been a mixed experience. I think there are freshers who are actually amazing. I get to learn a lot from these people, and the kind of, so I used to think that only people with experience can contribute towards a fellowship, but I was wrong. Like people who are freshers just out of college, they have a lot of things to contribute. That is something that I learned. And that changed my perspective about this program. I'm sure the second year and the further third year would be way, way, way better.
Yeah. Okay. What about the point? There's a lot of questions from Vishish. I don't know, Vishish, whether we can take all that. Anybody wants to throw more color? Vishish is still not convinced on the residential aspect. Bharat, you want to take that on?
Yeah, sure. So like I can give specific example. So there will be, as you know, this program is very intense. You can directly parallelly compare it to program with ISB, right? So there will be 4 to 5 courses and very different courses. And in each of the course, you will be working in teams. And after each hour or 1 or 2 hour, you will have to sit with different teams. If you are not in same residence or in the same place, it's not possible. You can do that. Even let's say you are at home, you can cope up with that, but then it will be injustice for your like fellow team members, right? Because it doesn't you cannot strike a well-rounded conversation while you are on phone, right? So I think being residential program is very necessary. If Plaksha would have been non-residential, then I would have been quite angry, so, to be very frank. So yeah.
What level of maths do you need? Next question coming up, Kartika. What level of math background?
I would say linear algebra, calculus, and statistics. But I know these are like something very intimidating also. But very basic, the school level, or what's the 11th and 12th level is enough. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're covering one. Rahul is saying I have a sales experience of around 3 years. That doesn't matter, Rahul. As long as you have a background in math, you've done whatever Kartika said, and you clear our test, it doesn't matter. Individual mentorship. Who are your mentors? You want to just quickly, Saif, who was your mentor and how did that go?
So my mentor is Pooja Goel. She's based out of Bangalore and she's an entrepreneur. Do you want me to talk about more? Or?
How has the experience been of mentoring?
Experience is nice. I think I can relay. I can talk about one anecdote. It won't take a lot of time. So I think around January I was facing a lot of difficulty with machine learning. So I was behind my coursework and my assignments, and I was questioning whether I should really learn machine learning because my interest area is in product management. And so I had a conversation with her that I don't want to learn this machine learning thing. It's not my cup of tea. So there's something that she told me and that has stuck to me is that I have to maintain intellectual honesty with myself. What she meant by this is there will be situation in your life which will be more rigorous, more challenging than this. And if you can't do this right now, even if you don't want to do, even if you are not interested, if you can't uh, solve this challenging problem that you have, you won't be able to do it in future. So you have to maintain an honesty with yourself. You have to develop this habit of solving problems, and that will help you in future. So that stuck to me, I think. And now I'm approaching the whole machine learning thing a little differently, more as a challenge rather than as a burden.
Okay, couple of more questions. Did everybody get a capstone and what sort of support was provided on capstone? Bharat, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So I think, yes, everybody got capstones, and you must have seen some numbers in earlier webinars as well. I think around 15 to 20% of the batch like worked with, so three of our fellows are fellow mates are in Purdue right now, and 2 to 3 worked remotely with them. And everybody got the capstone. And to quote some numbers, I think 59 fellows are, we are 59 fellows, and I think more than 70 projects were floated. 70 to 75 projects were floated for like.
In fact, a lot
51
of
open
projects
source.
didn't get taken up. So we are dealing with the
Yeah.
companies on that.
Yeah.
So these are some companies. I think we are at almost 6 o'clock, Jiva. Do you want to, 7 o'clock, sorry, we are sort of getting to the end.
Maybe a couple of questions more, Vineet, because we have like a lot of questions coming in. Yeah, maybe in a couple of minutes we can wind up after taking 2 more important questions.
Okay, capstones we've answered. What else can we answer? Okay, somebody saying what all is included in 1.7 lakhs. It's your stay is included and your food is not included. And after what Saif described, we actually had to discontinue the food. So fellows now sort of manage their own food themselves. And what
I
else?
would want to actually highlight how the fellows become entrepreneurial in, where
and the utility is included, right? The electricity, all that is included. And all the stay cost is included. Jiva?
Yeah, electricity bill to some extent, right? If it crosses beyond that, then yeah. But all basic essentials are covered.
Yeah. So you're living, the rooms are furnished, etc. Your power costs to a large extent. If you cross that, there is some charge. Yeah. Food is not. Yeah. Go ahead, Jiva.
Okay. Yeah. So since we are already crossing our dedicated time for this webinar, just want to highlight something before we wind up. One is the approaching deadline for application, that is 3rd of May, Sunday. We have less than 2 weeks to go. This is round 3. So whoever is interested, we would highly encourage you to go to the application process, interact with the panel. It's more of a one-on-one interaction rather than having just asking you questions, right? So try and go through the experience if you actually want to see what's in there. And thanks for joining us. I think we had a very engaging and enlightening session today. Thanks to all our fellows, Saif, Bharadeep, and Kartika for joining us along with Vineet. And hope you all stay safe and utilize this opportunity, this time period where you can actually explore and take it forward. Wishing you all the best.
And somebody's had this question. We'll share the recording.
Yes, we'll be sharing the YouTube link with you over.
I want to give some people, if they still have more questions, can they write somewhere or they can call?
Please write to techleaders@plaksha.org or even jiva@plaksha.org. And even the phone number is given in the website, so you can call us anytime. We are also available on WhatsApp on that number, so we'll be happy to take questions on WhatsApp as well.
So techleaders@plaksha.org or jiva@plaksha.org. And I know there were some more questions around faculty. I want to assure all the participants that the reason we moved the program to start on September 1 is precisely so that all our foreign faculty can come in. So I think fellows should not worry on that account. So I think on that note, we'll end. Thank you, Bharat, Saif, and Kartika, and Jiva.
Thanks, Vineet, once again for taking our time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.